Are you sitting at home during quarantine bored out of your mind? Well, I made a list of 10 anime that are 24 episodes or less that I think are good for anyone trying to get into anime or already into anime looking for new stuff to watch. If you end up liking any, please come back and comment your thoughts on it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. So anyway, let's get right into it. First up, we have Mob Psycho 100. One of my favorite anime of all time. It follows Mob, who's a young boy trying to learn how to find his way in the world and control his emotions while having psychic powers. He's unlike most main characters. He isn't after power or even to abuse these powers. He just wants to learn how to live like a normal person in the world that we live in while being able to process and control his emotions. It is an up and down ride of laughs and cries, and it's perfectly paced. I love the soundtrack, so if this is something that sounds like it will interest you, I think it's worth checking out. Next up, we have Parasyte, which if you're into sci-fi, pretty much anything, then this is the one for you. Shinichi, the main character, was just a normal 17-year-old student till a strange creature called a parasite tried to take over his brain, but he found a way to stop it from traveling there, and it got stuck in his right arm. The parasite that was trying to get to his brain is named Miggy. Now having his right arm taken over by Miggy, Miggy still acts like a parasite. Like, it's focused on self-preservation despite not making it to the brain. Other parasites view him as a deformity that cannot be allowed to exist, so they now have to struggle to stay alive together. So it's kind of like a story of them figuring out how to coexist together. It also explores deep topics like the difference between altruism and self-preservation and how both their ideals clash. Also, Parasyte has one of my favorite monologues to conclude a series ever. So let's move on to what is one of my top 5 Netflix anime adaptations ever. It was such a good adaptation and brought so many new fans to the series that it actually got English prints of its manga, which had me hyped because they didn't exist before that. From the moment I tuned into High Score Girl, I was hooked. It's a rom-com based around arcade gaming in the 90s. It focuses on Haru's life after meeting Ono. Haru is a slacker who just loves gaming and happens to be great at it. Ono, on the other hand, is an all-A student but also rich, and her family looks down upon gaming. It's something losers or bad people would do in their eyes. She is also forced to follow a strict educational regimen that is enforced by her at-home teacher. I wouldn't really know what you would call her. I think that's the best way to describe her. It has an art style that may take some getting used to, but overall it's one of the best rom-com anime you'll find. And there's also an amazing rivalry too that you'll really enjoy if you're a competitive person like me. Also a good display of how looked down upon gaming was during that time period, which is funny because look how gaming is flourishing now. Here we have Banana Fish. It's about a teenager abused as a kid who later rebels against the mafia and tries to discover the mystery behind the drug that killed his brother, while also meeting and trusting someone for the first time in his life. The choreography and the fights in this anime are really good, and the soundtrack also can't say enough good things about it. The intro, the outro to the anime, everything about it I think is phenomenal. So next up we have Run with the Wind. Run with the Wind is a sports anime focused on track. Now even if you're not into sports or track or anything like that, this is an amazing anime. It tells a nice story of not getting caught up in oneself where you miss the bigger picture, the importance of support systems, and just a really beautiful story with an amazing ending. It makes you want more, but you're okay with where it ends because of how good it ends. And also Haiji, one of the focal characters, who happens to be kind of a coach, is perfectly written. You will not find, in my opinion, a better short gateway sports anime. Next up we have Fruits Basket. It's a rom-com, but also gets very deep and touches on some really tough topics on the processing of emotions. It follows Toru as she's dealing with the death of her mother and not having anywhere to live. She happens to run into the Soma family, who are cursed to turn into their zodiac symbols. But the key is, the only way that the curse can be activated is if they are hugged by the opposite gender. They do change back after random allotted time, but that's the only way that the curse can be activated, and she accidentally finds out. So the story follows an emotional roller coaster of all their relationships and how they intertwine and they all grow. I really can't say more positive things about this series, but it is one of the best romance series out. This will have you crying one second but dying laughing the next, and it really does a good job at touching those topics of like really processing emotions and how people can view things very differently. Next up we have Vinland Saga. Here we have one of the best anime to release last year with a strong manga backing its source material. It succeeded in bringing it to life. Based on Vikings in 1000 AD, the story follows Thorfinn. What is a revenge story, but also focuses heavily on war. You see Thorfinn go through a lot of different things and how he changes with each problem. Just imagine Game of Thrones, but with Vikings. And if you think that would interest you, then this is for you. 1000%. Next up we have Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul is about a boy who is human and becomes half ghoul, his struggle with humanity and what it means for his life going forward, how his life will be changed and all the challenges he will now face, not only being a ghoul, but trying to survive as a half ghoul, half human in a world where he doesn't really fit in anywhere now. But before I really started branching out from shonen type series, this is one of the series that made me want to expand what I watched anime wise. I fell in love with Kaneki as a character that I even cosplayed him at 2015 Comic Con. Also, Tokyo Ghoul gave us some of the best original soundtracks in all of anime. Its genre focuses on gore, horror, psychological thriller type stuff. So I think this is a good gateway for you if you enjoy any of these things. And I think if you end up watching this, you should go check out the manga, because if you end up liking this, the manga is 1,000 times better than the anime. Up next, we have Made in Abyss. It's a unique anime focused on children exploring the abyss. The abyss is a giant hole going deep into the earth with unexplored depth. Literally, imagine the ocean, but it's just an abyss of unknown territory and creatures. The story focuses on an orphan named Riko and Reg. Riko is chasing her mother's shadow that she left behind since she was a kid. It seems like it might be a cute anime, but it really has good twists and gets dark halfway through. It really keeps you on your toes. The animation is beautiful, and so is the OST. The OST really brings out the most of all the scenes, even just scenes where you're just seeing scenery. Made in Abyss won Anime of the Year in 2017 despite still not being talked about as much as other series. They also go into and hint at really deep lore that I think is good. If you love suspense, mystery, and lore as much as I do, I think you should check this out. And it's only 13 episodes, so do we really have an excuse? Here we have 91 Days. 91 Days is the most concise anime I think I've ever watched, in that it never feels slow and everything moves along perfectly. No wasted scenes or time, doesn't drag, knows when to end. Just a perfect 13 episode revenge story taking place during Prohibition and focused on the mafia. If you enjoy a show like Peaky Blinders and you're looking to try to transition to anime, this is for you. Now if you made it this far and don't have friends who will let you use their streaming service accounts and don't have the funds to spend on streaming services right now with everything going on, look at the pinned comment in the comment section for places to go. For educational purposes, of course. And only educational purposes.